Hello and welcome to Winter Disco Tabletop Gaming. In this video we are unboxing and checking out the contents of Warhammer Quest Cursed City. This is a 1 to 4 player cooperative board game where you and your friends take on the role of a group of disparate heroes seeking fame, treasure and glory on the streets of the cursed city of Ulfenkarn. There you will find horrifying denizens of the night, skeletons, zombies, vampires and more nightmarish creatures as you race against the clock to save the city and its people before it is devoured by the cruel vampire lord Radakar the Wolf and his servants. This is the latest edition of the game, the first being released in '95 as a successor to Hero Quest, and later iterations in 2016 and 17 under the name Warhammer Quest, Silver Tower, and Shadows over Hammerhall. In 2018, the game launched into the 41st millennia for Blackstone Fortress, where adventurers sought out the secrets in the labyrinthine halls of a vast ancient space station. This version of the game, we have returned players to the realms of Warhammer Age of Sigmar and to the dark and blood-filled streets of Ulfenkarn. Once a proud city, Ulfenkarn is now nothing more than a feasting table for those who stalk the streets at night and fill the remaining citizens with fear. Only experienced heroes with the best weapons can hope to overcome its harsh ruler Radakar the Wolf and free Ulfenkarn from its undead curse. The box comes with 60 plastic models, including 8 heroes, 42 hostile enemies, and 10 mysterious objects. Several books to teach you the rules and guide you through the adventures in the city, including rules for Warhammer Age of Sigmar tabletop miniature game for all the models, 28 dice, 138 cards for treasure, events, maps, and more, 180 tokens, counters, and markers, and then 24 game boards to play out the heroes' adventures. That's enough talk, let's open the box and check out everything that you get. Sitting on top, you'll find all the miniatures, the 8 heroes in bone white plastic, and the 42 hostiles and 10 mysterious objects in grey. The larger of the bone white sprues has all but 2 of the heroes. As with all the heroes and hostiles, they're cut up in various pieces that you can push together without glue. Some of the piece edges are a little strange, but the designers have done their best to hide them through cutting at obvious locations, such as seams of the clothing or armor. The most obvious seam lines is on Octron, where they are cut along the back of his cloak. A pain, yes, but nothing that can be cleaned up with some plastic glue or green stuff and a fair bit of patience. The smaller of the bone white sprues holds the heroes Dagnai Holdenstock, who is the smallest hero, and Brutog Corpse Eater, the largest model. You can see the pieces in full effect, with Brutog having numerous parts that push together. Some of these models may be a challenge for newcomers to the hobby, but by following the instructions and taking your time, it should be no issue. The detail on the models is fantastic, with a lot of attention given to small touches to exemplify the characters. An example of this is the chainmail on Brutog or the fur on Imolda's cloak. The hostiles come in 4 sprues, 2 of which are duplicates of the skeleton, zombies, rats and bats, another sprue for some of the named enemies, and a smaller sprue for Radakar the Wolf himself. The duplicate sprues, or what I'm calling the skeleton sprues, are absolutely packed with miniatures. Each of the parts are so finely detailed with thin bits of plastic, it's a wonder how there's not many missing sections or any miscast features. In saying that, the sprue does require a lot of care of handling, so not to break a small feature of a model. Even cutting up pieces may be problematic due to the sharp spearhead or a back claw sticking into you. I'm finding myself handling these ones carefully and gingerly as not to break any protruding piece or catch it on another sprue, breaking the model in the process. The named hostiles are on their own sprue, with the parts being much larger than what you'll find on the skeleton sprues. The details are still present here, and you can clearly see the attention given to them. For example, Gorslav the Gravekeeper has a ton of detail on his body, from the skeleton hand on his belt to his bone mask, and even the folds of his tattered clothing. These models are generally made up of more parts than the skeleton sprue, so even though they are push-fit models, following the instructions is a must. Finally, we have Radakar the Wolf on his own sprue. Surprisingly, for the big bad of the game, there isn't much detail in his model compared to the others. Still, it's a fine model, and with only a few parts, it can be easily assembled and without any hassle. As all these models are highly detailed, they do come with some weak spots and small parts. In the case of this box, Octron's beard had snapped near the bottom, but a little bit of glue should fix this. As there is some very thin bits such as staves, bits of torn fabric and various tails of the rats and bats, it's best to take care and be diligent when snipping parts off the sprue. The bases come in a variety of sizes for all the models. Some, such as the hero models, have the new hexagonal peg that Games Workshop have been using for the last few big releases, while others use the traditional slot bases. The slot bases do need a clean up to get the models based, but this isn't too much of an issue. All in all, the models are amazing, as you do expect from Games Workshop. Attention to detail and care has been taken with every model, from the lowest of the rats up to the heroes and the big monsters. With the details and tattered nature of their clothes, armor and weapons, they're going to be a joy to paint, if a little bit frustrating at times. And if you are a new painter, this is maybe one of your first games where you're putting models together, definitely just grab some contrast paint. It's going to go on really nice and you'll have these models up and running really quickly. As with the more recent iterations of the Warhammer Quest series, the game comes with a variety of dice. So we've got 16 white dice, which are used for hero activations, 5 black destiny dice, which are also used for hero activations, but it's set aside in a special pool, several different dice for damage and defense, so that's 2 d12s, 2 d8s, and 2 d6s, and a black d12 rolled for a variety of things such as like random events. The game comes with an enormous stack of cards for a wide variety of things. There are 8 initiative cards that determine what order the heroes and the hostiles can acting. As you can take up to 4 heroes in a game, there are 4 cards for them, and then 4 cards for the hostiles. The cards themselves aren't hero specific, which is a bit of a shame as it adds a moment of hesitation and thinking when working out whose action it is. In the previous edition of the game, Blackstone Fortress, each of the heroes have their own initiative card, so it's very clear whose turn it is. And when you compare the hostile initiative cards, the Blackstone Fortress versions are so much clearer. As your heroes level up, they gain greater powers to tackle the undead foes of Ulfenkarn. These are represented by trait cards. There are 8 double-sided cards, with each side being specific to a hero's trait. They are leveled up 0 to 6, with 0 being starting hero, and then 6 being the highest level possible. As an example, we have the Lawmaster card on screen, which adds a variety of different abilities to the hero. Through adventuring, the heroes will find Realm Stone, discover powerful potions and items, as well as come across random events and traps. The random aspect of this game is represented by a deck of discovery cards. Treasure cards are one that can be used by a hero, such as a potion of coagulated vitality, which can remove a wound token, or Curse Catcher that removes a curse. These cards vary wildly, and half the fun is searching and finding that one piece of treasure that's going to help you on your adventures. Crises cards are a little side event that the hero can undertake. They are random events that are drawn and resolved through the quest book, which we'll have a look at later in the video. There are also Realm Stone cards that act as the game's currency. Finally, there are trap cards that causes a hero to trip a hidden trap that they need to escape from. The exploration cards are drawn in certain adventures to randomly generate the location. This adds a level of uncertainty and tension as you have no idea what could be behind that next door. Empowerment cards are bought and sold for Realm Stone cards. These power up your heroes with ancient weapons and magically infused armor, and you'll need all the help you can get in this dark city to take on the horrors of the night. We have 3 examples here of what the weapon items can do. I should note that the addition of the mechanics of the item at the bottom of the card is a godsend, since it means you can hide most of the card away and only have the key information. It really does clean up the table of cards and tokens. As you play more and more adventures, you start collecting more cards, and it just adds to the clutter on the table. So I think this is a really good design choice. The encounter cards are drawn throughout the adventure to randomly throw enemies at you and your friends. Each hostile group is determined by the level of your heroes, so it's a quick and easy way to find out who or what is lurking in the shadows. There's also the exploration cards, which show the tiles that you play at random points during an adventure. Not all quests require randomly drawn cards. For certain quests you will be drawing these, and it just adds that bit of extra tension to the game because you don't know what's going to happen. Finally, we have 8 death cards. When a hero dies, they receive this card. They're dead, they can't come back, and you get a skull card just to remind you of that fact. To know what your hero can do, you will need their character card. This has all the information you need, from a place for their activation dice, to their weapons, to the other special abilities and rules, and you get one for each of the heroes. Under their name are keywords for what they are. This is important as it tells you what trait card they can take. There is also a spot for a weapon and armor at the bottom of their card. If you recall the empowerment cards, you know they have the shortened text at the bottom, and you can slide these cards under the character card to only show the important information. I'm not going to go in depth into everything on these cards, but do know that these heroes are no ordinary folk, and to represent this they have something called inspired. So each hero inspires differently, but when they do you can flip their card over and now they have a different set of rules and abilities. In the case of Cleona's Zeitengale, her weapon attacks become more powerful and she gains the ability Heavenly Alignment, and this gives her the power to increase another hero's activation dice, which could be very clutch in a key moment. We finally have the hostile enemy cards. Each of the hostile type have their own unique card that shows their different actions and abilities, as well as a behavior table to determine what the enemy does in their turn. The behavior table relies on rolling a black d12 dice to determine their action. It's also important to note that when there are several hostiles in the same group, one or more of them may gain extra wounds or have more devastating attacks. In the case of the skeletal Ulfenwatch, they can add a banner bearer, which lets an Ulfenwatch model re-roll their attack, and a sergeant who gains an extra wound. So it's important to know your enemies, or cocky heroes may soon find their death swift in coming. Just like the heroes, the hostiles have a second side to their cards, and this is called Empowered, and it's triggered when the sun goes down in the city. Suddenly, the narrow alleys and crypts become a lot more dangerous. This relies on a ticking clock mechanism that moves one step closer to sunset every turn, so the heroes not only have to get through the adventure without harm, but also do it before it gets too late. The Ulfenkarn in Peril card tracks the influence and fear in the city. As your heroes adventure, they can impact the influence and fear, but it is a tightrope to walk along. Different missions will affect these in different ways, so players have to manage this. If there's too much fear and influence, then Radakar the Wolf and his minions take over the city and it's game over. This card is also where players keep track of which of the bosses they have killed and kill all of them, and you can finally face Radakar himself. Now let's have a look at the books. The rulebook includes, well, there's the rules to play Warhammer Quest Cursed City. I think that's pretty obvious. It tells you everything you need to know to take on the city and is a resource you will keep next to you when you play. The reference on the back page is handy as it lays out the turn sequence that you will go back to constantly. The quest book details the heroes, hostiles, history, as well as the missions and quests you can undertake. These are laid out in a set format, especially for the ones where you're trying to take down one of the Ulfenkarn overlords, or a map laid out with randomly generated hostiles or events. Importantly, there is a large section devoted to the crises in a choose-your-own-adventure style format. When you trigger a crisis, you will refer to a certain page, and from there you choose where to go to for another page to resolve the action. For example, crisis number 1 is Victim of the Times. It makes a hero choose between letting a sympathizer of Radakar the Wolf die or help him. What will happen? Well, you'll have to decide. The box also includes rules for all the models to play in Warhammer Age of Sigmar. This is a great addition to the box, as at the time of recording this unboxing, the new Soulblight Greylord's Death Army is on its way, and these models in the box will slip right into that. And of course, they need someone to stop them, and who better than the heroes attempting to take on Ulfenkarn. If you aren't familiar with Age of Sigmar, then this is a great way to get started. The core rules are free, and with these models and war scrolls, you can play directly out of the box. So really, this box is essentially 2 games in one. Then we have the model instruction manual. This will guide you through the build process for every single model. Some of the models are easy to put together, but others have a number of parts that require a bit of thinking and tinkering around. Strangely, the hero Dagnai Holdenstock has 2 instruction guides. It looks like the instructions in the manual were incorrect, so a separate sheet had to be added. So be careful when putting this model together. To round out this section off, we have one final piece. This is the secret envelope. What's in it? Well, you'll have to finish the game before you can open it. So what are we going to find in Ulfenkarn? Who knows? You'll just have to play. There are 5 push-out cardboard pieces that hold all the board tiles, tokens, counters, initiative tracker, and turn dial. They are fairly thick card with rich, vibrant colors, and each of the board game pieces is packed with detail, from individual bricks or tiles to broken coffins to blood splatters. Importantly, one item is a turn dial. This tracks not only the hero's achievements in an adventure, such as finding treasure or warning citizens of the city of an incoming wave of skulls, but it tracks the day as it turns towards night. And once the track reaches the night, all the enemies are now empowered and are out to feast on the bones of your heroes. So you got to get through the adventure fast, or you'll probably just become another victim of the cursed city. Finally, we have the ziploc bags. While this may seem like a minor addition, this is crucial for keeping all your hero cards together, the state of the peril counter and overlord kills counters in check, and all the countless tokens and cards in one place. So there we go, a ton of things in this box. The Warhammer Quest box games have always been packed with content, and not just from the models to the game boards and counters, but through the variety of quests and replayability that is derived from randomly generated adventures. At the time of recording, the game is exceptionally hard to get hold of, but hopefully new stock will be arriving to stores. So if you are in the UK or EU, check out the link to Element Games in the description where you can get a hefty discount on the street price. I am excited to get stuck into this game and play for hours on end, just like I did with Blackstone Fortress. So let me know in the comments if you have got it and if you're excited for it. And if you have made it this far into the video, thank you for coming along on this little journey. I'm really trying to level up my videos, so I put a lot of time and effort into this. So if you have enjoyed it, please hit that like button and let me know in the comments. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in another video.